Hi, welcome back to the channel, Michelle, and in this Healthy Living series video, I want to talk to you about food. If you missed my first video, I'll link it up above, but I was talking about kind of my health journey and natural living and how I came into that. So for this video, I wanted to make specifically a video about food because I think obviously that's a very big component of our health, and I have certainly come a long way on my health journey when it comes to food. So I feel like on YouTube, there's like two separate groups of people. There's the save as much money as you can, buy the cheapest food you can find available, lower your grocery budget, and then there's the other eat all organic, raw milk from the cow in my backyard, homesteading, all that. So there's these two groups, but I feel like a lot of us fall somewhere in the middle of those. I believe food is really important, and the food we put into our body is really important, especially since my youngest daughter was diagnosed with celiac disease. I've become very aware of how important it is and what that food can do to our bodies. And of course, I've had my own health issues with food as well. Again, see that video if you'd like. So I don't think we should be looking for the cheapest alternative. And I know that can be a difficult thing to say, especially when we're seeing inflation prices and things are crazy expensive right now. And I get it. I live within a budget. Our grocery budget is about between $800 and $900 a month, and we are a family of 5, a gluten-free family of 5. And for some, depending on where you live, that might be a lot. For some, that might not be a lot at all. But for us, it is the biggest expense next to our mortgage. Our mortgage is the biggest expense we have in our household. Next would be our grocery. And I'm okay with spending more money for healthier food. Now, I can't buy everything organic. I can't make everything from scratch all the time. You can check out my grocery hauls if you'd like to see. We don't do 100% clean eating all the time. Honestly, we can't afford it. But my biggest motto on here is do the best you can within your own budget. So, one of the things I've definitely seen a lot lately is these YouTubers blogging about how they have like half a cow and half a pig in their freezer, and how they grind their own grain, and that's great for them, but it's not for everybody. So for example, in order to buy bulk meat from a farm, you have to have a deep freezer, which costs about starting at $200, and that's an expense that not everybody can afford. I think a lot of YouTubers forget what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck, what it's like not being able to go grocery shopping until you have been paid for the month. So what can you do? What can you do when you live within a budget but you want to make healthier choices? So something I have done in the last, I would say 3 years or so, is start buying things from a local farm. Now, can I afford to buy half a cow? I think like even a quarter cow, or no, an eighth of a cow is like $350. That's almost half my grocery budget for the month. That's not doable, not to mention, don't have the money for a deep freezer. And that's okay, but I can still make some good choices within my budget. So what I do, and I'll explain how I find local farms to purchase things from and just some tips along that way. So I think buying from local farms is good for many reasons. One, it helps your local economy. You're supporting a small business. Two, you're gonna get typically better quality food. If you ever wanna look into like industrial farming and slaughterhouses and all that, it's really disturbing. And I am one that I want to know the food I'm eating is treated humanely, and that it's not gross and full of bad things. So finding local farms, I think, is really good. It supports them. You're bringing better food into your house. Can I afford to have all the meat in my house be from a farm? Absolutely not. It's really expensive, and it can be when you're buying really bulk. So what I do is a couple of things. I buy what we call a CSA, meat CSA, community sponsored agriculture. So I buy a share into this farmer's agriculture business, and I pay $45 a month, and that will give me 5 pounds of typically, it's at least 5 pounds of some type of beef. Sometimes there's lamb too and chicken. So around 5 pounds of some type of meat every 2 weeks. And they have the option of 5 pounds, 10 pounds. You can change the frequency. I do it every 2 weeks because that works for our family. $45, so $90 a month on farm fresh meat is completely doable for us. I think it's really good to get that nutrition in. We know how the animals are raised. We know how they are treated. We are welcome to volunteer or visit the farm whenever we want to see, which obviously is a big thing. If they don't let you see, where the animals are, how they're treated, probably shouldn't be buying from that farm. But we can afford that. That is doable. And I think a lot of farms will have different options like this where you don't have to buy half a cow, where they have individual packages for sale, which in the long run, is it cheaper than buying half the cow? No, but it's doable within your budget for a monthly budget. So in this meat CSA, and again, it's random. Of course, the farmer will take in my preferences and things like that, but it's usually 3 pounds of ground beef, a whole chicken, and either steaks or roast. And that will be every 2 weeks. Will that feed our family meat-wise for 2 weeks? No, it'll probably be about 6 dinners, but that's 6 dinners where I know I'm getting really good, healthy meat products into my family. And I can supplement with other things for the other week of the 2-week grocery budget. And on top of that, I have multiple farmers, so I get my beef and meat from one particular farmer. And then I get my eggs and sometimes other poultry items because one farm only does like whole chickens, the other farm does all parts of chickens and turkeys and things. So I will get my eggs from, I actually go to the farmer's market every Sunday and I get it from the same farm stand. And I know, again, how these animals are raised, the conditions they're in, because I think when you look at food, you can see a lot of buzzwords like cage-free or grass-fed. Okay, cage-free, first of all, these words, these little buzzwords you see on packages are not highly regulated. So in order for something to be cage-free, it just means it has to not be in a cage. That doesn't mean you don't have 1,000 chickens shoved in one barn together. Grass-fed means that they have to have at least a minimum amount of grass area to graze in. That doesn't mean it's, especially when you're farming, you want to move your cattle periodically, so one, they're getting healthy new grass, and then they're not constantly sitting in their own feces, and that's how you get bacteria introduced into your meat and how animals get sick and things like that. Whole nother topic. But again, this is why it's important to know what farm practices are doing. So for example, at the farmer's market, I think it's $3 a dozen. So is that more expensive than the $1 dozen of eggs you'll get at the grocery store? Yes, but you get so much better quality, so much better nutrition out of that. And again, learning to stretch what you have and supplement when you need to is very important. Now, some tips I have for finding local farms. I will link down below a website that shows you local farms in your area. When we lived in northern Wisconsin, I did use this app to find some different options because again, you don't always have to go with one farm for everything. Another big resource I think would be obviously farmers markets, usually larger cities. I do not live in a large city, but we do have one in our town, the town next to us. So checking out farmers market, I know there's at least 3 other farming vendors at our farmers market that sell different types of meat, cheese, things like that. Getting to know these people is helpful. Third, and probably random tip to find local farms would be, where I actually found mine was the chiropractor. I think when you go to more naturally minded things like a chiropractor or a natural food store, they're gonna have those contacts. My chiropractor actually has a table of businesses that she also supports that are more naturally minded, and that is how I found one of the current farms I use to get my meat. Being able to talk to those people and them being able to share their experience as well with that particular farm is important. It's word of mouth, things like that. And the last reason I think finding local farms is also important is because price and availability. Especially in the last few years, we definitely have shortages on things. Our food supply lines have been interrupted because various things going on in the world. But let me tell you, in the last 3 years, the $45 I paid every 2 weeks has not changed. Prices have not gone up with the farmers that I get my stuff from, which is really nice, because if you haven't noticed, in the supermarket, like, chicken has skyrocketed. For a while, beef was really expensive. So it's really nice to have that security that I know I'm going to still be paying a good price for high quality meat, and it doesn't change. And obviously the availability, knowing that my farmer isn't going to have supply issues because they have their cattle right there. They can process it, do everything they need to. Their supply lines aren't interrupted because they're local supply lines. They are not dependent on other things. So I think that's really important. And if the last couple of years have taught us anything, it's that we need to be prepared the best we can. And I think establishing those relationships in those food lines is really important for not only our budget, but also for our health as well. But that is one way, one small way I've impacted our health, by introducing these really healthy meats, eggs, things like that into our diet without breaking our budget. I wish we could do all of it. I wish we could have a cow. No, I don't wish we could have a cow and chickens. I'm not that type of person. My fantasy person would be the person that has a homestead. Realistic me would never do it. I have enough things to keep alive in my household now. I don't need to add more. I like the idea of it, and that's why I support those farmers, and I like the products they produce. But personally, it's not for me. And this is some way I can fit it in my budget. So if you're not a person that has a deep freezer full of an entire cow, that's okay. You can still make small changes that will have dramatic impacts on your health. So if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments down below, but thank you for watching.